Yeah, Jonathan Whistler, CEO of Edge Next. A little bit about us, our parent company, and we're sitting in the office space here, this beautiful space. They're actually the pioneer and the leader in sustainable real estate. So they developed the most square meters of BREEAM certified real estate. This building we're in now was actually one of the first platinum certified for a WELL certificate. So Edge itself has been leading the charge in building really sustainable, high quality, healthy real estate. Edge Next that I lead is the technology division inside of Edge. And the idea there was, to enable this wellness and enable the sustainability, it takes a high degree of technology, IoT, smart buildings, building management systems. So the concept of Edge Next was born out of the technology that Edge was using to deliver these buildings and this certification. So that's where Edge Next was born, with the ideas, how do we get this level of wellness and sustainability in as many buildings as possible. Good. Our four pillars are well-being, which will be the main topic today, sustainability, smart occupancy, and then what we call occupancy drives operations. So how do you take all this data together, improve the employee experience, and then reduce the costs, primarily energy consumption. So good. Some of you have met Florine, who's on our team, and she's the wellness lead. So this is a lot of the work she's done about what's the hierarchy of wellness, and then where does Edge Next sit in that, and where do we see it evolving? So we're really in this biological well-being, which is the physical well-being. So what's the air quality? What's the heating and cooling? What's the humidity? What's the level of light? With the idea of how do you deliver a good base level of experience for the end users in the office space. And we all know, and there's been a lot of studies around, if you have a healthy space, you're more productive, you're more likely to collaborate. You don't get what they call the sick building system, where people get sick and if you don't have a properly ventilated office. And then the other part we measure, which goes more into the social aspect, is the occupancy. So how many people are using the space? What are they using? Are they using conference rooms like this? Are they using telephone booths? How are they actually using the space, which we think really contributes to the social wellness. The other thing that's different, so there's a lot of people that do what we do, but one of the things we wanted is what we call wellness you can see. So how do you notify users of the space if there's an unhealthy environment? So this is a screenshot of what we call wellness you can see. If there's too many people in a room or the air quality isn't good, the signage or the screen, like you see now for the people here, is green, right? So that means the temperature is good, the ventilation is good. If it's not, the screen will turn red and tell you to step outside, open a door, open a window, or take a walk. So that's the idea of converting that data we get from the smart buildings and messaging the users of that building if it's unsafe. Or what we like to see regularly is, hey, we're working in a safe place, so I feel comfortable. I feel that the company is also taking care of me as an employee and as a user. Good. Whoop. Just skipped ahead there. So again, being the tech person, how are we using technology for that other layer, which we call social interaction? So how does technology play a role in that? You've heard, and the market's very crowded with employee experience applications. So we have a partner we work with, and we also work with other partners to integrate data. But the way we look at it is almost what we call the nightclub effect. So if you've gone to a nightclub and it's empty, you probably won't go back to that nightclub. We talk a lot to our customers and end users, and it's similar in an office. So they're coming into the office, and then when they come to the office, nobody's there, they don't come back. Yesterday, I was at one of our clients, and it was absolutely buzzing. So the office was full. They said they're actually reaching peak capacity and need to start planning around that. But that's the kind of thing in these applications we'll message to people. And you've probably seen on Google, if you go to an application, you say, okay, I want to go to this restaurant, it'll tell you, okay, it's busy now. It's busy on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. So you have that kind of data to make your decision about when you come in. And then what we hear often is, okay, I want to come in when other people are there, but there's actually a large percentage of people that say, I want to come when no one is there. I can find a parking spot. I need some quiet time away from my children, my pets. So these are the kind of things we want to use technology to bring people together in the office space. And we see that as a really fundamental piece of social wellness. Good. This is a partner of ours. It's called Spaceflow. They're another booking app. And then when they look at the marketplace, this is one of their differentiators. And what is different here is they're not just reporting on how much energy they're consuming, but they want to nudge people. That's another thing we've seen quite often. And we work with a bunch of students in facilities management. They all wanted transparency to say, okay, I want to be a better citizen when it comes to ESG. I want to do things that'll help the planet, help people, but give me the data to inform me. It's like, how do I do that? Nudge me in the right direction, because I want to be able to have a better impact, but I don't know what to do. So this is interesting. It's a partner of ours, and they're taking that ESG data from a smart building and informing the users on what to do to be more ecological. So again, we see that part of a social wellness, because now I feel better about what I'm doing and I'm contributing to the planet. Good. This is the other one. This is the footprint and the diagram of Amsterdam West. So this is an edge building we developed. And I actually studied centers of innovation and clusters of innovation in university in economics. And this is a bit like Lloyd's Coffee House. I don't know if you know the story of Lloyd's Coffee House, but essentially this was a coffee shop in the center of London, where all the sailors would come together and exchange information and exchange contracts. And that became the birth of global insurance, right? And now today, if you talk about London, there's London as a city. If you talk about the city, which is where Lloyd's Coffee House started, that's the global hub, one of the global hubs of finance. So that cluster of innovation is still alive today, about bringing people together with the same mindset and the same purpose to drive innovation. And to this day, hundreds of years later, it's still a hub. So if you look at the design of this building, the center of this is the coffee bar. So the idea in this building is we have an atrium. In the center of that atrium is this coffee bar where other tenants in the building can come together and collaborate. And then by default, we have an anchor tenant there in financial services. And that attracted a lot of other financial services companies. And indeed, they meet and they have these pleasant collisions, these social interactions in the coffee bar. And it's informal, it's unplanned, but we see that as how people can come together and have those magnetic spaces. And by the way, it's more efficient, right? So if you look here, you have the meeting centers, you have the restaurant, those are all shared spaces. So the tenants in that building don't need big auditoriums. They don't need big conference rooms like the one we're all sitting in today, because you're on an average day, you won't use these. They're shared services. So that's great for them because they pay a lower base rent, and then they only pay for what they use in the bigger spaces. And it's also great for the landowner because now they can have a higher utilization rate on the auditoriums and the conference rooms, and it's an additional revenue model for them. So they have base rents, and then these variable pay-as-you-go rents are a higher value. So it's very interesting for them. And then the other part we see in a lot of our new developments is really the community space. So Sophie, we had this conversation before. One of the buildings we have in Berlin, one of the requirements of the city of Berlin is a certain percentage of that space has to be dedicated to that local community, because they don't want a large office to come in and the tenants in there to overtake the space. They want them to interact and contribute to that community as well. And then the last concept we're working on in the technology to enable that is really what we call the 24/7 office. So why do you have these big, beautiful spaces in very expensive urban areas that close at 6 or 7 o'clock, right? It's a ridiculous use of space, even though you need to heat and cool and secure these spaces 24/7. So how are you extending that into more an event space? I'm not talking about a nightclub, but you can have a conference on circular finance. One of our customers in Berlin, they actually open up the space to their employees. So they have a DJ booth. So their employees that are musicians can invite their friends to, attract the community as an employee retention. And then they also open it up for social good. So they have sexual rights, religious rights. So the employees can bring together social causes that they're interested in and open up that space. So it's really about, okay, we have this big, beautiful space. How do we utilize that in a smarter way? And obviously there's got to be technology underneath to enable that. It's easy, right? No problem. Sounds great on paper, but I want to talk quickly about the stakeholder fragmentation. So one of our biggest challenges we have in deploying this technology are the players, right? So the owner, they're reluctant to invest capital or share data. You have facilities managers, they're on a fixed contract, no incentive to reduce costs or increase utilization rates. And then you have the tenant, they need to reduce costs and improve the employee experience. No problem, right? We'll figure that out. So in the technology I just mentioned, we can reduce costs, automate reporting, even improve revenue for the owner. In facilities management, we can give them tools to make their lives easier and their jobs better. And then for the tenant, we can actually reduce their costs and improve experience, right? Easy. So I want to talk about one stakeholder in particular, which is the building owners. We can talk about the other ones, but that would be a much longer presentation. But I want to focus on this one because I think in the context of this group, it's one of our bigger challenges, especially now in this perfect storm of rising interest rates, lower rental costs, more uncertainty in the market. I'm a reform banker, so I used to work at a bank, and I really respect the work and the risk these people take, but they're a big challenge. I read today, I just want to say, okay, how big is the revenue for commercial property as an asset class? And the statistic I got today in 2021, it was 4.2 trillion US dollars per year in income. So to put that in context, that's actually, it would be the fourth largest economy in between Japan and Germany. So that's the scope of this financial problem that we're dealing with today, and the scope of these owners that we need to have research and studies on how do we help improve their asset class and their asset income. So it's a massive problem. So this is how we look at it and how we're doing this in the building we're sitting in today. So if you look at a traditional real estate, your utilization rates now are around 25%. Using all the things I mentioned before of, let me shrink this, but how do you have a rental income for community? How do you have flex space? How do you have a shared space with you and your tenants? And how do you have base rents? So how do you take that asset, and instead of having a utilization and income rate at 25 to 30%, how do you increase that to 75 or even 80%? And I come from cloud computing and data centers, and this was actually the data center problem we were solving. Was a traditional data center runs at like 30%. Everyone goes home, they stop using their email program, and those servers just sit there unoccupied. In a cloud model, you use those servers during the day when people are at work, and then at night people go home and they play gaming. So we were moving the utilization rates from 25% during a 12-hour period to 60, 70% in a 24-hour period. So I see that parallel in office space as well. It has some challenges, but I see it's certainly achievable, and not 24/7 in this building, but we've increased the utilization rates to 65, 70% in the building we're sitting now. And actually we get extra income from events. So it is achievable and manageable. This is the other project, and this is my request to this group is, how do we do more research on the value add of real estate, particularly around wellness? So this is some data that comes from the Well Institute. And you see here, especially the one on the right. So they've looked in some markets and they're saying, okay, we can increase the net present value over 10 years by $129 per square meter. So that's significant, right? So if you say, okay, my average rental is 400 per square meter or per square foot. If I can increase that by 20, 25%, that's a big gain. And then it's similar on that. We always get the question, what's the value of well for my stakeholders? And here we're saying, okay, it's 20, this says 24,000 per employee per year. And then there's on another page, they estimated that the equivalent is about 19 US dollars per square foot per year as well. So these kind of metrics are what these capital owners are asking for. So they're saying, an NOI, I invest this much in a building, my capital budgets are tight. What's my ROI on this investment, or NOI from a building owner? So these are the kind of questions we would like answered. If you look into this WELL certification, they've done some great work here, but it's very specific. I think they did New York City and Boston. And as we all know, in the real estate market, people say, okay, that's great, but how's my market in West Hamburg? And how's my market in the Zuidas in Amsterdam? So it's got to be very market specific. So that's my request to the team here in this group is, how do we extend that research? How do we get more use cases and more samples and more markets to get that investment in well? Because we all know and we agree that that's important, but these investors, the Wall Street, the people managing 4.2 trillion in revenue every year, we need a story and we need facts for them. I can tell the story as a vendor trying to sell. It's more valuable if it comes from research and validation outside of me trying to reach my revenue targets. Good. So that's my request to the team. And then I want to leave with a bit of inspiration, which is, I'll stretch it. And Adam Newman, the founder of WeWork, I'm a huge fan. Maybe he took one too many trips to Burning Man, and the financial model is questionable, but I just read their recent results. Flex Market, they had a growth of 37% last year. Definitely a growth market in flex real estate. And then this is the quote he has: how do you change the world? You bring people together. And then if you look at this image, if I look at building by building, that's great, but we're part of a larger community. How do we bring all these buildings together and bring that community together to change the world? I don't have the answer, but that's just a question and a bit of inspiration.